Okay, let's dive in. October 10th. A pretty big day in Japanese politics.
Right, absolutely. The end of a really long-standing partnership.
Yeah, 26 years. Since, what, 1999? The Liberal Democratic Party, the LDP, and Komeito. That coalition was basically the bedrock.
It really defined stability for a generation, and now it's over.
So the mission today is to try and figure out, well, why? Why did this relationship finally crumble? We know it has something to do with governance, political funding,
That seems to be the trigger, yes.
and we need to look at what this means for governing Japan from here on out.
And it's fascinating because, the alliance itself wasn't built on deep ideological alignment.
No, not at all.
It was pragmatic, born of necessity, really. Back in the late 90s, the LDP's grip was weakening.
They needed the numbers.
They needed Komeito. Specifically, they needed Komeito's core strength, that incredibly disciplined voter base rooted in the Soka Gakkai religious organization.
Highly reliable block voting.
Exactly. That reliable delivery of votes, that was the core trade for, well, over 2 decades.
Right, so Komeito brings the grassroots muscle, the votes, and the LDP provides the political machinery, the power to actually enact policy and run the country.
It was a marriage of convenience, absolutely, but a remarkably durable one.
It worked for a long time.
And you can see the push and pull in the policy record. Komeito constantly steered things toward, let's say, socially oriented measures.
Like during COVID,
Yeah.
that cash payment.
Precisely. That universal 100,000 payment in 2020, Komeito really forced the government's hand there, moving away from limited relief. They also fought for exemptions when the consumption tax went up to 10%, things that benefited ordinary households.
While the LDP was focused more on the big picture stuff. Right. The structural agenda,
Yeah.
Abenomics, economic liberalization, and a stronger national security stance, closer ties with the U.S.
Okay, but given they navigated really tricky stuff before, like that 2015 security legislation, that was huge, Komeito voted with the LDP on limited collective self-defense.
A major compromise on their part, traditionally pacifist leanings. So if they could compromise on that, why was this funding fight, this governance issue, the thing they just couldn't paper over?
That really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? 26 years. I mean, think about it. An entire political generation knew nothing else.
The institutional shock must be immense.
It is. And while 2015 showed they could prioritize stability, there were always underlying tensions. Constitutional revision, security issues, those never went away.
But those weren't the final straw.
No. The death blow, as it were, wasn't policy friction this time. It came down to governance and money. Specifically, money in politics in 2025.
Right, the trust issue. Let's get into the money part. Komeito was really pushing the LDP for, what, full transparency?
Full fact-finding into those factional party fund scandals. The unreported kickbacks, ticket sales.
And they wanted stricter rules, caps on donations.
Stricter caps, better reporting on corporate donations, real structural changes.
And the LDP resisted.
Fiercely. They rely heavily on those fundraising networks. They called Komeito's demands sweeping restrictions. That resistance seems to be the breaking point.
Even though Komeito's own power seemed to be waning a bit.
That's the interesting political calculus here. Yes, they only won 8 contested seats in the July 2025 councilors election. That's way down.
So they left despite having less leverage.
It suggests that they saw this issue of transparency in political funding as absolutely fundamental, non-negotiable, even if it cost them cabinet posts and direct policy influence.
Okay, so what happens now? How does Japan get governed? For the LDP, what's the immediate challenge?
Well, practically speaking, they still have the most seats, but no automatic majority. They have to build coalitions vote by vote.
Ad hoc alliances.
Expect that. Reaching out to smaller parties, maybe independents. They'll also have to really emphasize stability, continuity, try to reassure you, the public, and the markets. Internal discipline becomes key.
And for Komeito, what's their path forward?
They have to redefine themselves, prove they can win and be relevant outside the LDP's shadow without that institutional safety net.
So lean into being the reformist centrist voice.
Exactly. Play up their independent identity, focus on those core principles they perhaps felt they had to compromise on before. It's a gamble, but it's their chance to rebuild support on their own terms.
So wrapping this up, a 26-year partnership, really held together by pragmatic needs, votes for influence, finally broke.
Shattered, really, by these deep disagreements over governance standards, particularly how political money works.
Which leaves us with a pretty critical thought, doesn't it? Well, Komeito left because the LDP wouldn't budge on tightening political funding rules. So what happens now that the LDP needs new partners?
You mean will they be forced to make concessions?
Exactly. If some new, smaller party comes along and makes similar demands about transparency or anti-corruption just to get a basic majority, will the LDP have to give ground on the very things they resisted?
That is definitely the power dynamic to watch. Will necessity force the reforms that principle couldn't? Something for all of us to keep a close eye on in the coming months.